Okay, it's early morning, so maybe we should start with a Teletubby show, right? Oh, what a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in comprehension, how like a god, the beauty of a world, the paragon of animals, and yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Well, these lines are obviously from Hamlet. However, I'm not giving you a brain teaser to recognize the timeless classic in the morning. My question is rather simple. Who is an actor in this episode? Well, the obvious answer, of course, it's me. But let's have a closer look to what you just observed. You, as an audience, took all the information, verbal and non-verbal, from this puppet. It moved, it spoke, it was a character. Well, there's an enormous variety of, puppets in the world. Just to mention few: marionettes, shadow puppets, bunraku marionettes in Japan. Some are operated by operators in plain view. Some are operated with actors covered by some kind of a device. They come in different sizes and shapes. They can be as small as these finger puppets or as big as this huge marionettes in France. Puppetry is quite a fascinating area to research. However, I'm not a puppeteer. I'm a career actor and a teacher. And throughout my life, professional life, I was fascinated with acting, trying to understand what it is, how it works, and how it is related to our everyday behavior. But let's get back to our puppet Hamlet. You, as an audience, took this guy for a living creature. It moved, it spoke, but it's obviously that it was alive just because I was operating it, right? Well, the puppet becomes alive because it becomes my dimensional projection, an acting object upon which I project my ideas about the play, the character, or, say, the philosophical understandings, what I read in, say, Hamlet, right? Well, in the actor-puppet relationship, inevitably exists a semiotic paradox. An actor, a creator, creates the signs of life consciousness and projects those signs upon inanimate, unconscious object, making it a projection of a conscious mind. And you, as an audience, read these signs from this projection, and that way you get understanding of what's going in actors' or operators' mind. Now, interesting enough that, though being my projection, the puppet does not have to resemble me in any way. It can be any size, any shape, limited only by my imagination. In fact, actually, I cannot operate my body the way I can operate the puppet, right? It can be any size, actually, any creature. And actually, interesting enough that only a human audience will take this for a horse, right? Well, the real horse, I doubt it will take that for a horse, will it? So it's quite fascinating, and actually the same idea we can extend, say, to computer gaming. If you are entertaining yourself by, say, some kind of a first-person computer game, you are operating character. You are operating the projection of your actions. Actually, the same idea can be extended to any work of creativity. Well, any piece of art, any painting, say, any sculpture, anything is a artist's projection. His projection of his understanding about the world and his perception of that world, whether it resembles the reality it represents or, say, it's an abstract concept of it. Now, what fascinates me as well, apart from acting theory, it might come as a surprise, is physics. And not because I was a very good science student, rather opposite. Otherwise, I would have a real job and maybe teaching even at ISM. But the reason for that is that science and cosmology, they drive my inspiration because they are trying to answer exactly the same questions as any meaningful work of art. And I'm sure those questions are coming not a surprise to you. They are who we are, where do we come from, and where are we heading? Now, scientists are trying to understand what our universe is made of, including myself and my puppet, what lies in a key of the smallest particles that makes bigger stuff. All these attempts, of course, are theories, because we still have to build bigger and better devices, like, say, LHC collider in Geneva, to help us to understand the reality. Yet, these concepts are the best we have so far. I'm sure you are aware of the scientists trying to unite theories of big and small. Einstein's space-time universe and the quantum universe in one nice, elegant equation describing everything that happens or will happen in and around us. I'm sure you are aware of ideas that our universe is a simulation, that we live in multiverse, not to mention string theory. All these theories, of course, are valid to one or another extent. Yet again, I'm not a physicist to argue on that. Well, one of the most recent and interesting attempts come from the group of scientists called the Quantum Gravity Research Group. They work in LA, in California, and certainly you might wonder what these guys are smoking up there in LA, since what they're saying that our universe, our three-dimensional universe, is a projection of a 8-dimensional reality or universe. Well, something like a three-dimensional cube projected on a two-dimensional screen. Well, let's get more artistic. Okay, the universe is a chair projected on a screen. All right. Now, it's really a very interesting research, and I'll just go through a key points. And sorry, I'll read that just because I don't want to apply any misconceptions, because certainly I'm not a physicist. So, and of course, since it happened in LA, definitely in California, everywhere aliens are involved, right? So let's get a proper music background for it. Can we? Oh, there we go. Okay, there we are. An emergence theory. Physicists think that the reality exists in a 8-dimensional universe, and what we perceive as universe is its projection in 3-dimensional subspace. The space is not divisible to the infinity, and there exists a quanta of space, somewhat similar like a pixel on a computer screen in our 3-dimensional subworld. This quantum takes shape of a Planck-sized tetrahedron, or a simplex. They think that the consciousness, which is very interesting, is a property of space. And in this basic and elementary form, consciousness exists in every single simplex. Combining these consciousness quanta, we get more and more sophisticated form of consciousness. Future and past coexist in one single space-time geometric construct, and those frames interact with each other simultaneously. And future is co-creating us right now, just as we are co-creating the future. A causes B, B causes C, and C causes A. Well, we can stop music by now. Thank you. All right, where we have it, simple as that. Well, certainly I'm not mocking scientists, rather my own inability to comprehend the immensity of those ideas and what those ideas are implying to our life. Yet, of course, I don't think we have an answer to a meaning of life. Well, the correct answer to a meaning of life is 42, as you may know it from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, or or what was it, universe or galaxy, there we go. Okay, so, and by now you might wonder, why should I care about it rather than running about my business with some silly puppet next to me? Well, the reason is that I think that the same causality loop may be applied at least to theater, or at least to acting. We can put it in a diagram like that. Operator creates character, right? Now, the character creates audience response. And then the audience response creates my actions, operator's actions, upon the subject I am operating. Well, and since acting is sort of a resemblance of our everyday behavior, I think that can be applied to our everyday activities. We need some kind of a character to represent our ideas to the surrounding world. It is inevitable. Well, just try to imagine if we could just spread out our brain activity in, say, 5-minute time frame, visually. Okay, it probably would look like that. Yet again, this picture is a projection of an idea I'm trying to communicate, right? So we definitely need some sort of communication media. We need a character to represent what goes in our conscious and subconscious mind. There is only a way to do that, through the character. And we certainly do care how we look. There is no accident. How we look, how we speak, what car we drive. If someone states that he doesn't care, it's a character who states that he doesn't care. We all care. We have to care. That's the only way for us to be productive. Well, if you think you don't, let's do a simple experiment. Please raise your hands, the ones who are happy with their passport picture. Well, not that many, all right? Okay. Well, to the majority of unhappy bunch, I can tell why. There's nothing wrong with your passport picture. It's perfect. It just doesn't represent to you as you see yourself as a character. Simple as that. We need to create something to communicate what was happening in our head. We need something to communicate our consciousness to other conscious minds. Well, our reluctance to accept consciousness as a key building block actually reminds me of our story with electricity, when for thousands of years we had no idea what it is, but it was always inside and around us. And when we started to get a grasp of it in somewhere in 1800s, the best story we could come up with was, yes, you got it, a monster. I'm alive, right? And the first version of it was published in 1818. All right, there is no such thing as unchanging self. We are in constant flux. We always change our behavior, the way we represent our consciousness in front of other conscious beings. Just as my tiny little puppet here, it always adjusts itself. It's exactly the same process as I described. I create a character. Then I correct my initial idea, how I was about to operate it, depending how that character looks. Then the character interacts with you, the audience. And then your reaction corrects my actions upon this object. Well, to me, maybe that's enough for today. These are quite inspiring ideas, at least to me, since that tells me that we are not just a part of universe, as common saying goes. We are the universe, and inevitably we are an inseparable part of a consciousness, whatever it might be. Well, actually, we don't know what consciousness is, let alone have a theory to describe it. I'd like to leave you with this idea, and all right, as a bonus, I'll tell you an answer to the question, one of the key questions, who we are. We are a projection of projection projecting the projection. Or, as Kurt Vonnegut put that in a much more elegant way, we are what we pretend to be. So, we must be careful about what we pretend to be. Thank you.